Hello, so my name's Lisa. I decided to do my Project C on this book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. I decided to read this just because the divorce rate over the United States and relationships not working out is very, very high. And a lot of times it's because of miscommunication, not communicating right, not understanding right, different forms of communication, different forms of listening. So this book at the beginning goes about how Gary's on a bus and is talking to this guy, and he says that he's been married 3 different times. And so then Gary goes to ask him why exactly it didn't work, and all 3 times basically it was due to communication. So he goes on discussing different forms of communication as far as, you know, you need to be able to communicate with each other, as well as understand forms of communication, different forms of communication. So he goes over the 5 languages of love, obviously, or 5 forms of communication, which is words of affirmation, acts of service, meaning that you don't just have to say something to, you know, show affection. It's also your actions, things that you do. Actions speak louder than words. Receiving gifts. When somebody does something for you, you know, how you express your appreciation, or things you may say, or your response. Just there's verbal and nonverbal communication that'll show. And then quality time as well. If you're going to put your time into somebody, it's going to show them, you know, how important you are to them, or if you're going to take the time to sit and listen to them, or if you're not going to sit and listen to them, you know, that says a lot. It doesn't have to be just, you know, I'm hearing you and I do care. Well, you know, and then physical touch, meaning, like, you could tell somebody you love them, you could tell somebody you care, you know, or it doesn't even have to do with relationships, just somebody, you know, who's upset or whatever, you know, giving them a hug or shaking their hand, just that, you know, physical contact with someone to let them know that you care or you're involved, everything like that. So it just goes on discussing basically, like, all ways of hearing, you know, nonverbal and verbal communication, as well as nonverbal and verbal understanding. It's not just listening and hearing somebody. So I have some notes here. This book, obviously it was written by Gary Chapman. I said that in 1995. What else? According to Gary's theory, every person has one primary and one secondary language as far as verbal, nonverbal, acts of service, receiving, just different ways of communication. And so based upon what he thinks is that for a successful relationship, you need to be able to recognize your personal forms of communication. So say, like, mine would be acts of service, and then words of affirmation, and then say my other half, his was quality time and physical touch. You know, sometimes people don't always say things, but what they do for you should show things. So for a successful relationship to work out, or even just in general, you need to be able to understand all forms of communication, to better understand somebody in general. So I think that this is a really good book. Again, it's the 5 love languages. Not even for relationship issues, but just in general, there's a lot of good stories, a lot of good examples just of communication in general, communicating with the public, communicating with family, with friends, everything. You know, it helps you understand or give you examples in many different ways as to if you were the person listening or the person communicating. So I really advise it. it's really good, and I think that for this class and communication, it definitely hits a lot of key points that we went over. So that was my thing for Project C.